St Kilda have sacked coach Scott Watters. Watters was under contract for 2014, but after a review of the club, he was sacked this morning. Watters was in charge for 2 seasons, but the Saints managed just 5 wins in 2013 and ran 16th, with reports of a rift between the coach and senior players. Very shortly, the club will hold a media conference. We will go to that conference live as soon as it starts. But this is what the Saints coach had to say on Melbourne radio this morning.
I know exactly where we sit. When a president sits with you and says we see you as a long-term coach, that's enough for me. I'll get on with work, I'll get on with business. We need to stay really focused on what we're doing, coaching-wise, through what's a pretty challenging time, and I won't deviate from that. I just think it's so important for our members to know how much positivity is going on, and you mentioned some of the selections that have occurred through the trade. There's a massive upside for this group now, and there's a very optimistic feel about where we're at, and really looking forward to the start of pre-season.
So just repeating, Scott Watters has been sacked 2 years into his 3-year contract. We will go live to the club's media conference. The assembled media still waiting for the club hierarchy to front and explain a decision that sees Scott Watters leaving St Kilda 1 year before his contract expires. In the meantime, let's go to some rugby. Scott Watters. Club hierarchy is addressing the media now.
Well, firstly, thank you all for coming to Wynnum House Centre. I want to announce today that the board of St Kilda Football Club met this morning and came to the decision that Scott Watters would no longer be our senior coach. Before I talk about this decision, I want to make a few comments about our club. We have had a tough few years. While there have been a lot of on-field success, we faced the heartbreak of getting close 3 times without bringing home the ultimate prize. In announcing today that Scott is moving on, I want to acknowledge that our club is going through a considerable period of change. When I became president on 6 September, I received the strong support of the board to make the changes necessary to see our club into this new era. Some of those changes have already commenced, and there will be more. As you all know, we are going through the process of finding our new CEO. In the meantime, Michael continues to work with the board and management to ensure the smooth transition to the next CEO. The decision of the board today was not an easy decision. It has been the result of a significant and considered process. In relation to Scott, I want to thank him for the commitment he has given to our club. He invested in our young team and he helped commence the process of transitioning our list, and we wish him well in the future. Lastly, I want to say that those of us privileged enough to be in positions of authority in football can never forget that the passion and support of our members, it is the passion and support of our members that keeps us as a club going. Essential to that passion is hope. Hope invested in the team, in our players, and in everything that St Kilda Football Club stands for and aspires to. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Peter, why did you make the decision?
Sorry, why did we make the decision?
Yeah.
Look, it's been well documented. We went through a review process. I'd like to emphasise that process was not so much about, I think it's been emphasised about a parcelling, what happened during 2013, but it was actually as part of the club review. It was what this club needs to go forward. Out of that process, there were a number of things identified that we needed to be very rigorous about, including our structures. In the weeks after that, we obviously reassessed where we're at with that, and we reached the decision we did today.
Did this morning's interview on radio compound this decision?
No, the board meeting was set up for 8 a.m. this morning. I was unaware the interview was occurring, and to be honest, I found out about it well after the board meeting.
Were you disappointed that you went on radio and said what you said this morning?
No, I'd prefer not to be that. We had our own process today to go through, and I was focused on that.
Scott said you looked him in the eye and said that he was the guy for the job long term. What's changed since then?
Look, it's no different to what I said before. I mean, I have the same aspirations for all employees of St Kilda Football Club. I think we hope that everybody comes in is successful and is long term. But it needs to be. It's obviously not unconditional. and we've obviously assessed things today and got the decision where we're at. But
sorry, something must have changed over the last 3 weeks. And Andrew Thompson's review said the right people were in the right positions 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What happened since then?
Oh, look, as I said, it's about those structures, and we've had it. It's been ongoing. I mean, what happened at that time was an assessment of where we're at a point in time. That changes. We went through a period where other things become clearer. And as much as anything else, I think what you're looking for is how everyone responds. And I think we'd all accept that you can have a period where you go through that. We all say what we feel at the time. But as it sinks in, as things emerge, then issues become clearer.
What issues became clearer?
In terms of the actual issues themselves, we met with Scott this morning. We went through the reasons for our decision, but they will remain confidential between Scott and ourselves.
How did Scott? What was his initial reaction?
Disappointed, as I think we'd all expect.
Is this more about personality than performance? I mean, there's talk of personality clashes within the club. Is that a problem for you at the moment?
It wasn't a factor in our decision this morning.
So Scott's relationship with other football staff wasn't an issue in his termination?
Well, relationship as in, everybody's got relationships in a club. So yes, in terms of the issue around some of the personality issues that have happened during the year, we addressed those in the review. Were they a strong factor in this morning's decision? No.
Well, you talk in the last 3 weeks. In the last 3 weeks, you've lost a senior player, the high performance manager, and senior assistant coach. Did that play a part in the decision today?
Well, it's all part of it, but it's not the base of the decision. In terms of when I say all part of it, I mean some of those things in there you mentioned about a senior player. I mean, no, that's a list management issue. I'm just saying in terms of all things are considered, but the list player management issue is clearly with list management.
Peter, have you drawn up a short list for the replacement?
We have a list that we will approach. I would emphasise, despite what I have heard in the last bit, we have approached nobody.
So if you were explaining this to the fans, Pete, it's a fairly drastic change late on in the year. What would you say?
Look, it's part of our commitment as a board that we will deliver what is required for ultimate success. We are going through a transition. I think what was done recently in terms of Trade Week, what we will announce as part of our vision, this club is going through transition, and periods of transition need to be done with a strong sense of purpose. It's a strong decision. I'll acknowledge that.
How did the players feel today? Did they come into the club or?
No, the players are still on leave, but they have been communicated to.
Has this been driven at all by the players, of any unrest from the players?
Absolutely not.
So Peter, what do you hope that the new coach can do that obviously your now old coach couldn't do?
Look, I think what we're looking for is out of football review. There were obviously strong things around structures and in terms of where we want the coach to fit into all those things. But look, I think to answer that, it by stealth, it almost takes us into areas where we talked to Scott today, and I think that's probably then gets into areas we probably should remain confidential between us.
Will you have a new coach before the national draft, or is there no deadline?
We're based on the discussions this morning. We are hopeful that'll be the case.
Will Scott be paid out in full for a second year?
That's confidential.
Do you feel Scott had long enough to achieve what you wanted him to achieve?
Well, the obvious answer is yes, based on this morning. But I don't think it's about. Again, that's a more backward-looking discussion rather than forward-looking. I think this is more about what we need going forward.
There is St Kilda President Peter Summers detailing the events today that led to the sacking of Scott Waters. A board meeting this morning at 8 a.m, resulting in Scott Waters being told he was no longer required 2 years into his 3-year term. As for reports that it was because of a personality clash with players or other support staff, President Summers said that was not a strong factor and preferred to keep the actual factors confidential at this stage. We'll have more on this story throughout the afternoon as we continue to discuss St Kilda sacking of Scott Watters. Still to come.
Sensationally sacked coach Scott Watters after just 2 years at the helm. The news came just hours after Watters appeared on radio saying he thought his job was safe. Nick Butler joins us from the Saints base at Seaford. Nick, did the club say why Watters was shown the door?
Well, Stephen, it seems all the whispers, all the rumour, all the innuendo we've been hearing out of St Kilda in the past 12 months has proven to be correct. The senior players were disgruntled. It's as simple as that. There was infighting in the football department, and ultimately the board decided that Scott Watters wasn't the man to take the club forward. For weeks, there's been talk that Scott Watters was facing the axe. Today, it came swiftly and seemingly without warning.
We looked at what we needed going forward. We looked at where we're at. We decided a different approach.
But the writing was on the wall, with reports senior players were becoming disgruntled and the football department was losing faith.
It's been reported there was tension in the football department. We accept that. But I've also said that I've operated a long time in business. Tension isn't a bad thing necessarily.
Still, Watters was unaware he was in the gun. This morning he spoke on radio, dismissing questions about his future, insisting he had the full support of the board.
I know exactly where we sit. When a president sits with you and says we see you as a long-term coach, that's enough for me.
Watters not the only one taken by surprise.
Well, yeah, we don't know anything, guys. We've just been exactly like you guys, so I'm sure the club will make a further statement at 3 o'clock today.
Watters' sacking caps a tumultuous decade in which off-field issues have plagued the Saints. The club has had 3 coaches since 2006, with Grant Thomas sacked that year, Ross Lyon defecting to Fremantle in 2011, and Watters axing today. Criminal investigations against 3 players rocked the club in 2004 and again in 2010, while the so-called St Kilda schoolgirl and nude photo scandals broke later that same year. This year saw more turmoil, just 5 wins on the field, boardroom changes offered and a prank gone wrong during Mad Monday celebrations. The club has vowed to name a replacement within a month.
We will establish, and in fact it's being established right now, a committee to go through the selection process.
They better stick to their word because training starts next week. So, Stephen, the search for a new coach begins straight away, and Mark Williams has to be at the top of that list. He's willing, he's available, and he is a premiership coach, and Choco Williams has already been installed as the hot favourite.
Nick Butler reporting from Saints headquarters in Seaford.